is going on, YouTube? Pass the Prop back here again. NFL edition week 15. We're back here ready to roll. Back-to-back days with my guy, Stu. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Not too much to update you on. Obviously, we just saw each other yesterday. Probably the most disappointing game from a viewer perspective of the year, right? People were clearly, expecting a shootout or anything. I do feel good that was one of the games I kind of sat on the sideline really more than any other primetime game this year. So do feel like I dodged a couple bullets. I don't know about you. I was catching up with a friend. I watched a little bit of the game, and once I realized it was going to be one of the worst games of the season, I was not too tuned into the end of it until we got to the very end of the fourth quarter. So, a bit of a wash on Thursday Night Football, but we got a great slate this weekend. Excited to dive into it.
Yeah, no, actually, for me, I thought it went pretty well outside of me losing my bet on the show. I mean, I only had one bet in the game, and I lost it on the last play of the game, which was absolutely disgusting. We'll talk about that in a sec. But, I mean, overall for me, I in best ball, I have two lineups with Kyron of my three big ones. So just my bigger best ball leagues. I have Kyron in two of them. Feel great about that heading into the weekend with, 16, 17 fantasy points from a guy that, has had some down weeks. So not a bad start. Even if he ends up turning into my flex, I'll take that. A lot of Cooper Kupp guys. They had a lot of Cooper Kupp guys in my matchups this week. 30 of them. 30% of the people I made it through. I got very lucky there. Actually, funny. My my wife's team. She lost like 3 or 4 games in a row. Wins the last week. Makes it into the thing. Faces Cooper Kupp in the first round. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you got lucky, man. You got zero of them. The number one receiver on that side. So, yeah, dude, it was good overall. I was talking about it on the show. I played against Purdy, and he ended up with 2. And I got big bad Josh Allen coming at him this week, so feeling pretty good about that matchup, and hopefully can kind of run away with it and not have to stress as much, because I have not had a game where my fantasy matchups haven't been within 5 to 10 points. So we'd like to just run away with this one, hide a little bit, and get ready for next week.
Yeah, no, I mean, shout out to anyone that played against Cooper Kupp. That was a blessing. He definitely tanked some of my remaining best ball teams for sure. I did have some Matthew Stafford, so obviously not the greatest way to start out. But I was between Stafford and Anthony Richardson against the Broncos. So, it's what I guess I had Levis on the bench, but it's like you can't do that. Stafford brought me here. I can't put fucking Levis in there over him. So, yeah, had to ride with the ship right there, hoping my guy, Jahmyr Gibbs can bail me out of that game. Bijan Robinson. I've got some heavy hitters, but I really, it's going to be a battle right here. I'm playing against AJ Brown too, so I really hope that narrative stuff just falls on the face. Has 4 yards this week. That would be great.
All right, Stu. Before we get into the thing this week, I have a hypothetical for you. This will be interesting one. All right, this is for next week, right? Say I win this week, head into next week. I have Josh Allen at New England. So obviously not the greatest matchup. Could be just a slow, groggy game. Should be able to run on him. Or do I just take the flyer and roll Jameis Winston? Because I'm pretty sure he's playing Cincinnati next week in the most glorious spot of all time. And that's if I make it through, that's the semifinals, right? That's the semifinals to go to the ship. I mean, the Bills might be a 14-point favorite in that game. Legitimately could be a 14-point favorite. Just a fun one. I was kind of hyped, playing around with, because looking at so me and this other guy, the 2 and 3 seeds are probably the best 2 teams in the league. And we have to obviously play each other next week if I win. And he has the stack of it's Derrick Henry, it's Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, and Baltimore's defense. And then he's got Saquon, but I think Saquon's got a tough matchup there, but he's just rolling the full Baltimore ship out there. So that'll be Baltimore plays the Steelers next week, actually. So that'll be a really fun game to watch for some AFC North. So should be, we're kind of in this weird spot where it's kind of like you, where it's do you roll with the guy that got you there? Or are you actually still playing matchups when it's a win or go home?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Because I haven't looked at Allen's game logs against the Patriots, but I'm guessing it's not great. I'm guessing it's a lot of slower. I'm sure
those games was that sideways snow game. I don't remember if you remember that, so I don't know.
Yep. And also, you got to count Belichick. Like, he was a lot of the coach for a lot of those games. He probably took away Allen a solid amount versus new coaching. You can't really trust Mayo versus Belichick there. So I don't know. I'd probably go Jameis, honestly. I think it's kind of crazy to say, but the one thing we have to keep real close on is theoretically DTR could start if it's all tank mode. Like next week, if the Bengals are. I don't know. That's the only thing I'd be worried about is what if nobody cares about that game? But Jameis cares. I mean, if you've seen the guy talk once, you know he cares. So I think you kind of got to go Jameis.
So for me too, and it's like I'm kind of nervous though because I need Charles Tillman back if I want to play Jameis.
Yeah,
God damn, that dude was good. He was really good.
He's questionable this week, so he could even play this week, and Njoku should be back next week as well.
Yeah, the guy I'm playing this week has Judy, who just obviously carried his ass. He has been rolling Judy and Jamar Chase. So that's kind of, like that's his backs are okay, but when you roll those two and Mixon, that's his whole team. And if you can just get away from having 30-point weeks from those three, I feel pretty good rolling with my boy Big Bijan out there. I think I got Bijan this week. We got Alvin Kamara with no one on that roster. And my receivers are pretty loaded, so I should feel good about that. Sorry, guys, I got to get that out of the way. Get some of you guys in here. We got 35 you guys in here. Gave you guys a couple minutes. Let's get to our recap. Not a great one, obviously, for me. Losing on, the last play of the game. And I was like, bro, why didn't the Rams send the fucking house on the play before that, right? They rushed one. They rushed one guy, and they threw an incompletion. Then they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't let him sit there for 10 seconds. And they just send the house on a Hail Mary and get his ass. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up losing by one. I went like 6-0 on everything else last night, so it was kind of disappointing with college basketball and other stuff. But, yeah, like I said, I played against Purdy, and if you would have showed me that stat line, not the attempts, but just the stat line, there's no way he throws that many passes, right? He threw 142 yards. But, god damn, we ended up losing it by one, and it sucked.
Yeah, it's one of those where you nailed it and you didn't win the bet. There's no other way to put it. Like, you were on point right here. You got the game script, everything. It was just unfortunate that both teams just played bad, and like that resulted in this going over, especially in the end. So unfortunate there. Obviously, Garendo couldn't really get much going on the ground either. I'm surprised they went full Garendo. No rotation, no nothing. I mean, he was the bell cow. So that was a little bit interesting to see. I'm curious if we see that continue or if that was more of a 1 week thing. But I would assume it would continue, but he wasn't great with those touches. So it's a little bit hard to say. We're going to have to tune into the press conferences this week.
Yeah, and another thing, too, was were you surprised at how many passes? They had like 16 or 17 passes in the first half when it was like coming down like pretty hard. I was really surprised at how many they had there. Mind you, I think you would have probably hit that long shot if Debo catches that one right across the middle and he had no one around him. But like stuff like that, like it was coming down. Like it was not light. And they just kept throwing it. And I'm like, there's no reverses. There's nothing to like try to switch it up. So yeah, I was really confused. I did not expect them to throw that much in the first half.
Yeah. It was just the whole thing was ugly. It was just a nasty game right there. But I mean, fading the weather has been a good strategy. Obviously, that's not what you were doing in this game.
No, I mean, obviously, it was nice in the back pocket, but that was not my main.
Yeah. But yeah, in general, I would say when I see weather, everyone slams the unders. I like to go to the overs, but obviously we weren't considering that at the time.
I didn't even know it was supposed to be that bad. I knew it was supposed to sprinkle, but I wasn't.
Light reports when we did the show, though. It like ramped up later in the day. So,
all right. So we end up going 0-1 on our straight bets. I know you had the long shot at Debo. Do you want to talk about that at all? You just want to go through?
I mean, anyone that watched the game, what else do we need to say? I mean, holy shit, it's probably Debo's worst game in a couple of years. So unfortunate. That's why I stayed on the sideline, just took a little bit of a long shot there. Did not go our way, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was not not a fun game. Hopefully, you guys tried to avoid the fantasy stuff there, because I think outside of Nakua, I can't imagine anybody really did much. Maybe Kittle, right? I think that Kittle maybe had serviceable type of game. Kyron serviceable, but nothing that's gonna home run hit and get you that fantasy win where it's just like you kind of already are set up, for a big one. So, all right, Stu, let's get into this week. We got a nice slate, ton of good games here. First, let's start out with favorite game on the slate, favorite game that you're looking forward to, and we'll let you start us off.
Sounds good. I mean, this one isn't hard. I like to be a contrarian, but this one isn't hard. I'll just get out the way. We're going Lions, Buffalo Bills. That's the game of the week. Kind of no doubt about it. I mean, we got a great Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a good weekend of games, but that's clearly the number one on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a couple that are kind of fighting for me, at least for me wanting to watch the games. I really like that Tampa Chargers game. I really like that game. Obviously, we're a big fan of Ladd on the show. I'm probably the biggest Baker fan, at least better that there is out here. So obviously like that spot. I'm also really intrigued by Philly with Pittsburgh there. Obviously both teams, fighting up in the top there. But, I mean, Pittsburgh's offense looks fucking good, right? And now I'm intrigued, right? What are we going to do here? You got Pickens coming off of his injury, coming back, should be ready to go. I think that's going to be a fun game, dude. I'm really intrigued.
Why are the three best games of the slate at the same time? Why can we not fix this during the week? It's not like you have to trade networks or anything. Put the Commanders Saints at 425. What are we doing? That's crazy. The 1 p.m. slate is full of bad games. Because at first I was going to try to pivot, but then I looked at it and saw the Chargers one, which is what I would have picked also, is at the same time. Well, it's like, I can't watch. I guess I can try to watch all three of these games at the same time, but that's brutal, man. That's tough.
Oh yeah, dude. It's kind of annoying that first round of games you get Cowboys Panthers. I like that game. I like that game because I'm a Panthers guy now. I'm a Panthers better, I think, more than I should be. Well, there's that one. Then you keep going down the list, like Cincy, Tennessee, not really playing for much, right? I mean, that's not a terrible game. You get the Chiefs at the Browns, 4-point favorite only. Isn't that crazy? You get the Browns. They got 4 wins, 5 wins, whatever it is, and they're against the number 1 rated team in the NFL, only as a 4-point dog. Hey, that's just how good Jameis is, bro. So I'm very intrigued about some of these games. Let's get to some dogs, Stu. What's catching your eye here on this slate? We'll go 2.5 and above on DraftKings because there's a couple of them that are 3s elsewhere, but on DraftKings they're 2.5, so we'll go down to 2.5 as well.
Yeah, I kind of struggled with some dogs. I'm going to Sunday Night Football. I'm going to a 2.5. I'm taking the Seahawks against your Packers. I felt much more concerned than the general public did with the Packers' inability to take care of business against a bunch of practice squad players last week. It's not head coaching. You got a good head coach. It's easy to put the first blame on those guys. I don't know why you're not able to take care of business against a defense that every time they made a tackle, you literally heard what practice squad the player played on a couple weeks ago. Like that, to me, I didn't see enough there. And the Seahawks, the defense is trending in the right direction. The Seahawks are kind of a team I want to be buying right now. And they've kind of showed it in some of these divisional games as well. So I think that's a pick 'em. I think that's an even game. I think you can go either way. So if you're going to give me 2.5, if you're going to give me some extra points, I'm going to take the Seahawks in that one.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm probably taking Packers money line for sure.
Figured you would. It's not a limbo, baby. We're not in limbo.
No, it don't matter. That shit don't matter.
It matters a lot. Dude, it matters a lot. Gino outside in these bad road games is not a Gino I want. Gino in a home comfortable crowd, I feel a lot better about that.
Dude, I'm just worried that DK ain't playing, bro. I really
am. That's fair.
Yeah. Bro has been practicing, hasn't done shit, and now they just came out and sat him another practice yesterday, bro. Like, I'm more worried if they're going to run both. I'm not that – as much as it's probably going to come and bite me in the ass, bro. I'm not that. They have not ran the ball well outside of Charbonnet making a couple of big plays there in that last game, and he's probably not even going to play. Right? They just don't play him when Kenneth Walker's in, so it's like he gets like 10% of snaps. They don't even use him as like a change of pace back really anymore. They've been just passing it to Kenneth Walker, where the guys who beat the Packers are those scatty type backs, bro. Like Gibbs against the Packers cooks them every time because those quick guys, right? Last year, Bijan, right? Didn't even get a ton of carries, but those are the types of dudes who cook them. And I think if Charbonnet is going to get some touches, but I don't think he's going to, right? Those power backs, the Packers aren't fast. The linebackers are not fast, but they're big. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why they have issues with tight ends. That's why they have issues here. And I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about the tight ends, and I'm not worried about a fast running back. Those are the two guys that cook them, and I'm worried about rushing quarterbacks against the Packers. And I'm not really worried about Geno in a running game here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not worried about it. And the books aren't even giving them any credit on it either, right? So if the books aren't even going to give you credit on that either, I'm the biggest Geno fan. Me, Geno, and Baker, we on an island chilling, drinking fucking margaritas all the time. But I can't do it here, bro. I just can't do it. I don't trust it, man. Especially with this spot. I mean, I know it's a must win and all that, but I mean, same thing for the Packers. The Packers can't lose. You know, like the Packers can't lose anymore, right? Even though they're pretty, I mean, I want to say locked into that wild card spot. Whoever pretty much is the 2 and 3 from the North are probably making it anyway. But you still got to keep pace with the Lions, right? So obviously they have a tough matchup this week. You got to look at the schedule and know, hey, they got a tough spot. I think this is going to be a tough one here for them. Obviously, getting the Bills, that's a tough game. This might be the time you got to make up a game, right? This is the one you got to make up with. So if they ever do drop a Geno rushing attempt, if it's a rushing yards, rushing attempts, I'd probably play it. It has to be probably sub 10, though. I wouldn't play anything higher than that. Maybe a longest rush if they give me like a 7.5, because the Packers do give up those first downs to them. But I don't know, man. I'm not that high on the Seahawks, honestly. I just like they looked good last week, right? Arizona looked fucking awful. They looked awful until the fourth quarter when they're just like, oh, maybe we should throw the ball to our best player, right? And it's like he was open on some of those plays. You know what I'm saying? Like the tough part is Seattle was trying to, shut down him. They were able to shut down McBride pretty easy, right? Or not McBride, Marvin Harrison. The thing is you can't really – there's no one to double on the Packers. They're just going to run 5 dudes out there, and they're just going to, just chuck it around. Like, that's the nice part for them right now is they just got a bunch of, like average dudes. But they show up. They do show up, and they do play fine in the weather. And that's the thing is it's not like a huge difference. If it was like a dome team going there, but, Packers going to have some of that shit weather here already. So, I mean, I don't know where I want to go with a dog. I think if I'm gonna – I think I got to go with the fucking shit Titans, bro. I think I have to go shit Titans off of a Monday night game. Big game. You got a big one. You covered in that spot coming off the home game. Now you travel to Tennessee. You mentioned it already. Will Levis getting healthier. I know they came out and said some things that were positive about his progression coming out. I can't take this team to cover 5.5. 5.5 points, bro. Come on, dude. Like, we had the big blowout against the Commanders where the game was over, right? And they should have won last week, right? And they just shit the bed. So I think this is one of those spots. I did see that Pollard's not practicing. I did see that. But again, I'm rolling with Levis, bro. I think that he's going to have a week this week. And obviously we're a pretty big Calvin Ridley fan here on the show. So I'll be talking about him in a little bit. But I think that's where I got to go. 5.5 is a pretty nice number for me.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I'm hoping to get that. My thing was, I hope it gets to like a 6.5. Because I'm like, are people really wanting to bet? Like, so many people have lost money on Levis this year that I'm kind of just hoping, enough like bets come in on the Bengals, the people that just, Joe Burrow versus Will Levis. I'll take Burrow easy right there, where we can get a little better number. But I'm on the same page. And I will say Pollard doesn't play. Spears receiving becomes a slam, I think. And, hey, American hero Joey Chestnut, anytime touchdown. Who knows? Maybe you can get in the end zone as well. So it'll be interesting. Pollard not playing would complicate that, I think, from a covering perspective, but it would make it a good prop game. I think I'd love some like Spears, some Ridley, some of those guys even more.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think the Pollard one really kills me that much. Actually, it's probably better for some of my bets because I don't have to
it is,
run the ball 25 times in the back of somebody. But yeah, I mean, if you're the Titans, just literally, why are we not double teaming Chase, right? And make the other guys beat you. Like, that's literally what their game plan has to be. Do I think that the Cincinnati team can run the ball very well? And this Titans defense, they haven't really shown that many, bad games on the ground. So is it T. Higgins Gesicki time, baby? If they can do it. I don't know if they're still worthy of a 5.5 point favorite spot in this one. So, especially in Tennessee, you gotta think that they're going to come out there for the fans and want to show out a little bit. So, all right, let's take a look at the chat. We got Cashville, first guy in here. We appreciate it, man. Thank you. Appreciate you, Plus Money Bob. Let's take a look. We got you talking about Jameis as well. Thinking Jameis over Allen next week in fantasy, bro. That's scary to even think about. I don't know. Did you see that he's doubtful or something? I didn't see. I saw he was questionable. I didn't see a tag that was.
The last thing I saw was a true questionable, a true questionable. And if Stray Sniper says Tomlin said he was doubtful, I believe it. I've been kind of 50-50. I just did a alpha show before this earlier, and they were asking me about the game. I was like, I need to see if Pickens is in before I'm making a bet. Like, I need to. So for me, I'll just sit on the sideline until we know for sure.
Yeah, dude. Let me look here because, I mean, you got to assume if they're giving a 5.5 points, they assume that he's not playing, right? Don't you think if Pickens is playing, this is closer to like that 4? I feel like it would be closer to 4. So. That would be my guess. So if you want to take a gamble on it and get an extra point and try to roll with it and say, hey, these are the guys. If Pickens plays, I'm probably getting a point of value. I think it should be like a 4. That would be my guess of where it would be at. Yeah, I think so too. I doubt that they're going to put much out for him on that without any, Kenneth Walker news and if he's 100% or not. So, all right, Sue, you ready to roll, my man? This is time to go. This is we got 40 people in here watching with us live. 20 minutes in some change. You ready to roll?
Ready to roll. Let's go.
Kick it over to you, start.
Sounds good. There have been a couple weeks this season where I know a lot of people in general, especially sharp guys, do not like the receiving yards for running backs. That's kind of a common sentiment. People say it's a little bit unpredictable. There have been a couple weeks this season where I've been actively excited to bet running back receiving yards, coming into the week. And Joe Mixon is definitely one of those cases this week. Very excited to get a number under 20 receiving yards for a guy that's one of the highest usage running backs in the league. I mean, when we talk about a running back that doesn't come off the field, Joe Mixon has got to be one of the first guys that comes to mind. Even you guys know I'm a big Dare Ogunbowale fan. If you were watching earlier in the season, I was taking his receiving yards, but you'll notice that stopped as soon as Joe Mixon got back in the lineup because they don't play around. It's a bell cow kind of role, and that's how they're approaching it. If we look at last week, Dare Ogunbowale ran 4 routes. He was out there for 4 total snaps. He ran 4 routes. Joe Mixon ran 23. We are consistently seeing Joe Mixon run routes that are just 4 or 5 less than the wide receivers. When they're throwing, when they're dropping back, he is out there getting involved. And that's the number one thing you want to see for a prop like this. You want high usage. You want a guy that's not coming off the field. Because in the modern NFL, you have so many situations where if you're a third down back, I'm relying on very certain situations to get you there. Well, Mixon, on any given drop back, he can be the dump down option. He can be the check down. We know he's been good in open space breaking tackles. It's the best tackle breaking season he's had in the last 3 years. So despite getting up there in age, it's clear this new Texans system has been good for him. And we've talked about it over and over. When I bet the rushing yards for Mixon, they just love this guy. They can't get over 1st and 10 run, 2nd and 10 run. And while obviously that doesn't directly help us right here, hopefully one off of a bye week, we've gotten a little bit more creative. I would like that. I'm not counting on it because we're year 2 of the same exact offense. But if you do run, you're still going to set yourself up in a lot of 3rd and short opportunities where Mixon will make himself available out of the backfield, where he will be a weapon. What I like about this, I think this actually might be the most underrated game of the week. We talked about a lot of bangers. Love Chargers Bucks. This is going to be an interesting one. Both of these two teams have like playoff caliber talent. Sure, Miami hasn't lived up to the expectation. It's going to be a test for the Texans this week, who have really not looked up to expectation, especially after CJ Stroud dominated last week. They now have had a bye week. They've had a little bit of time to get their act together. I think we do see a little bit of an improved version of the Texans offense. But what I like about this matchup, the Dolphins have been good on the ground. Like in terms of limiting yards to opposing running backs, we just saw last week both of the Jets running backs were held under 4 yards per carry, under 45 yards on 20 carries. But both of those guys, 27 and 35 receiving yards, both of them crushed their numbers through the air. Before that, we saw Josh Jacobs very much held 2.9 yards per carry, I believe is what it was, but almost 70 yards through the air. He had a dominant game. And if you keep on going, it keeps on going. Stevenson held for 8 for 13. We've seen a bunch of guys, all their recent matchups, really struggle on the ground. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. If Mixon is this high volume guy, if he is going to get these 20 carries a game and they're not getting it going early on, it's not working, the yards per carry is looking a little bit like Josh Jacobs, what do you have to do? You have to turn to the receiving game to supplement the traditional running game. It's how you still set yourself up in these third and short situations, which the Texans love so much. So I just think there's so many different paths for Mixon to get here with how high usage he is, whether it's design screens, whether it's checkdowns, whether it's 2-minute drill. Like, he's such a versatile back. And this is a game that I think both teams are going to have their moments. I don't mind the Dolphins offense. I think a guy like a Chain is going to have a pretty solid game, especially receiving as well. So a lot of good options. I think it's going to be closer than people might expect, a better game than people might expect. I think Mixon's going to be a big part of it. So give me his receiving yards at over 19.5.
Yeah, I'm interested in that game. I do like that game. I think I'm a little bit more interested on that Miami side with Achane, whether it be in DFS or I don't know how I'm going to play him yet.
They're tough to get to, brother. 34.5 receiving yards for a running back is tough to get to.
Yeah, it's just, dude, he's so fucking explosive, bro. Like that dude's literally their number 2 receiver. Like, I'm sorry, Jalen Waddle, your ass is 3. Like it. And maybe not even 3, maybe 4, because Jonnu took his ass out too now. I mean,
yeah, literally.
That's what I'm saying. Like Waddle's taking a huge step back, and it's just because those two have elevated themselves. So it's just tough when you go on those sides too. But there's really not that many options in Houston anymore, right? When you don't have Diggs there on those underneath routes, that Mixon probably will have to get a couple double downs in there. I'm always just worried with CJ Stroud on checkdowns because, like, I don't know if I trust him on that, because if Nico Collins isn't triple team, that motherfucker's getting the ball like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I watched the Packer game, dude. Nico Collins had 2 dudes. Like, they were putting 2 guys on him like every play, and they still were trying to find a way to get that 40-yard bomb in there. So, definitely a spot though. Obviously, them getting a Miami team in the dome here. So, I'm just always interested to play Miami when they're in a dome. Because that team is just so fast and moves quick. So it's just like, it could be one of those games. It could be one of those shootout games. And I feel like that number 46.5 seems a little low, right? I feel like that one might get a little higher than that. So that's just me. But let's get to my first play. And I'm going to roll with 2 guys on my roster this week. And that's going to be Ladd McConkey and Calvin Ridley here. Dude, target share wise, has there been anybody better than Calvin Ridley over these last 3 weeks? Like, it's tough because obviously, against Washington, he laid an absolute egg, right? Laid an egg. 7 targets though in that game, which is pretty wild. You saw 12 targets last week against the Jaguars. Mind you, Levis threw the ball 32 times. 12 targets here over to Mr. Calvin Ridley. Obviously, everybody, again, I feel like is just looking at how the game ended and how he didn't get that extra yard, but still played pretty well in that game. Then you go to the matchup where he only had 6 targets against Houston. Bro, he had a 25% target share. Will Levis threw the ball 24 times only in that game. I think this is a game where I'm expecting Tennessee to be down in this one, right? I feel like a lot of people do. You're seeing I like them as a dog, but I don't think they're winning it outright. I'm getting 6 points, 5.5, 6 points on them. If they're behind and they need to throw, what better matchup is there, right? I mean, we saw it last week. How many times was CeeDee Lamb open, right? How many times? And you knew what was going to him, right? They have nobody else, bro. Like they really did. And mind you, Westbrook-Akine, not good, playing over his head. Yes, he likes the deep ball there, but he can actually get, the safety to go deep with him, right? Because that's literally what he does, just runs those deeper routes. Outside of that, who else has done anything for this pass-catching game outside of the running backs? Obviously, the running backs are good, Tajay and Tony Pollard, but it's Calvin Ridley and then a huge, huge drop-off in that receiving room. So 50 yards for a guy who's getting over 25% target share in almost every single one of these games. 12 targets last week against Jacksonville. Didn't really do too much with them in terms of yards, but prior to that, pretty sure he had that 63-yard catch against Houston. I'm pretty sure in those last 7 weeks, he's got 4 games with a 30-yard catch. So just that big play upside, something you can cash on one play, right? So like the buy down spot. Ladd is a little bit different. Obviously, the volume is still there, but the dude's just super reliable. I'm happy he sat out last week because I watched that Atlanta game start to finish. The dude was just gritting that out, man. Dude's tough. But you could tell it was hampering him, dude. Like he was falling down just not to get hit on that shoulder. So hopefully this week off, a little stinger in there. Hopefully this week off helps him out there. Obviously the Chargers played on Sunday night, so everybody kind of has that in the back of their head, like, oh, he's, missed a big game. He must be really hurt. But I think it's just a little bit more precautionary here because this game is just I think this is a shootout waiting to happen. You got a pass funnel of all pass funnels in this Tampa Bay team. Tampa should be able to move the ball on them as well. So we get Ladd in a trailing game script. Even if it's not a trailing game script, this dude is just volume city, 27 targets over the last 3 weeks. I know great matchups. If you want to say, oh, those were great matchups for him. Yeah, I get it, right? Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Atlanta. But this might be even better than all 3 of them. Tampa Bay might be even better than those 3 matchups. So sign me up here. I like both these guys, obviously on not only volume, but we've seen big play upside. I know Ladd had a 40-yard catch in that Atlanta game. And obviously we've seen Calvin Ridley break off a big one. So really like this spot. You're muted there for me, man.
Sorry about that. Yeah, if you saw me distracted, I was just slamming this right now. I love these. I love both these guys individually. I love the combination right here. I played Ridley in back-to-back weeks. He's cashed for me on the longest reception. Even that Washington game is almost perfect that he missed it, right? So you're getting a lower number. They had time of possession for like 3 minutes in that game. I mean, that's the exact kind of game that lowers the average that you love because he's still got, 7 targets in that one despite barely touching the ball and a 30-yard catch. So it's one of those things where, Ridley's going to get all the volume in the world and he's running downfield routes. And if you look at his numbers right now, it's up on the base to 66 and 67 on FanDuel and DraftKings. But if you do have like a Rivers or you have a 365 or an MGM, you can still get at 63. So if you do just like the base as well, now would be your time to buy because it's only going up. I agree about Westbrook-Akine. Fun story, obviously great to follow. But we're talking about a career wide receiver 4. Maybe even wide receiver 5, right? That's been lingering. Clearly a good culture guy. Like he's been on this team for a while. But yeah, Ridley's the number 1. And if they're wanting to continue to see Levis in the trailing game script, love it. As for Ladd, I'm Ben Ladd every single week. There's no one in that room that touches his talent level. It's not even close. So if Ladd's healthy, I'm playing Ladd. Simple as that. And you get the best matchup in the league. The Buccaneers can't play defense. That game's going to rock. Yeah, I love the spot.
Yeah, dude, it just makes me like Baker even more on the other side. Just going to be a pretty big game stack that I want to be a part of, just because the Chargers defense early in the year was just like a lights out. But they've been a little more leaky here these last couple weeks. So let's take a look at.
It's always a little bit more scheme than talent. The teams like that tend to fall apart a little bit more at the end of the year when you're relying on scheme, not as much individual talent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a couple questions in here. Want to make sure we get to those. Our guy Thomas in here. What's up, guys? Stu, your boy Robinson this week hitting his overs, rush attempts at 14.5 and 74.5 rushing yards. Do you think he has a lot of volume in this matchup? I know Washington is getting New Orleans here. Do you think we might see a little more McNichols here? It's kind of tough because they kind of both run similarly. They're both kind of the same bag. Obviously, Eckler being the change of pace, out for a while. I almost think it kind of hurts him that Eckler isn't playing because Eckler does different things well. McNichols kind of runs the same way, right? Is that just me from the outside? I obviously don't watch as many games, but, more of like a power back, is able to run in between the tackles well.
So McNichols traditionally is more of a receiving back in his past usage, but you're right. Washington has not used him like that at all. Like if you look at past game logs, he's mostly like more of a receiving guy. They have been using him as a rusher. And then now they've even added Chris Rodriguez Jr. into the occasion again, who had 13 carries thanks to the blowout last week. So my thing is I was going to fire Robinson. It's still in consideration, but seeing the Haener to Carr switch is obviously scary, right? You got a guy like Haener who I don't trust to do anything. So, like, Carr sucks. We all know Carr sucks. But, like, when you don't get pressure on Carr, he's still, like, 6th in the league in EPA per play. Like, Jake Haener can't do that. No matter how bad you want to hate Carr, like, I mean, I guess maybe he could, but for what we've seen so far, it's very unlikely. So my biggest thing is I feel like Washington might just kind of beat the crap out of them in this game. And that worries me if Robinson is sitting at 14 for 62, fantastic start to the game, that it just becomes the Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichol show because McNichol came in last week and then Rodriguez had 13 carries in the end. So it's a little bit scary. I'm thinking maybe longest rush is the pivot I go to where you're not betting on volume, you're betting on efficiency because Robinson has been good this year. So it's a tough one. Jaden Daniels is in consideration as well. I do really like the Washington rushing attack. It's just tough because now we're spread across 4 different guys in what could be a pretty solid blowout here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm probably benching Terry McLaurin this week. Which is tough to say, but for the exact same reasons, man. We have our guy Dylan in here talking playoffs. Yes, sir. First round of playoffs, fantasy playoffs, full point PPR. Need 1 running back and 1 flex. Bucky Irving, if plays, I know that he's questionable, hasn't practiced this week. I don't know if I want to play Kenneth Walker because I don't like. How do you play him after Charbonnet just went for what 130? Like 132 touchdowns and was running through people. You also have Sean Tucker, Braylon Allen. Oh my God, Isaiah Davis, Condre Miller. I can't play Condre Miller. You can just delete that guy. Like Kamara would have to get hit by a bus
as much, but it's like this is
Condre Miller's not even in the same conversation of these dudes.
As Davis is, if we're considering that Breece Hall might be back this week, right? That's what I'm reading. It says there's optimism he's going to play or something like that. So if Breece Hall comes back, then both of your Jets are kind of fucked here. This is rough. You just need one of your guys to play, and you need to pick the guy that plays. I mean, to be honest, for Smitty, J-Mo, I'd go J-Mo. I think he has a big game, highest total of the season right there. And then for tight end, that's a little tougher. I'd probably go Freiermuth. I think he has higher upside.
Freiermuth easy.
But hey, Zach Ertz is going to give you 4 catches for like 18 yards. So if you want whatever, fantasy, he's not going to get you any yak, but he's going to get 4 or 5 catches in this one. But I would go Muth as well.
I mean, dude, I don't even think it's close with Freiermuth, man. I especially if Pickens is at any single way limited. Yeah, like even if he's playing, but limited, right? I mean, Freiermuth was a lot of first read options last week.
That's fair.
And a lot of those dump downs, I understand. Like, I would be a little bit worried with the passing game usage that we saw from Najee last week, but we saw him get like 5 catches first 2 drives and then do absolutely dick after that, and then they all went to Freiermuth. So obviously a good game script too. You're seeing them as a 5.5, 6 point dog. So mind you, Russ loves them tight ends, dude. And Russ and prevent. You want to give me some Russ and prevent defense, bro? Sign me up. I'm all in for that. I'm unsure about the whole Bucky one. I'm not sure how they're gonna do just because like they have 2 other dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like they can use Tucker, they can use Rashad White. So I don't know.
Sorry. The next comment killed me. I'm sorry. We gotta move on. We gotta get out of this. Like
hey, we usually go an hour. We actually moved very quickly through our first round. So let's get to plays 3 and 4 here. We'll get to them. Hey, drop your questions in there, guys. I might not drop my last one until I get a couple more questions, just so we can see this guy get riled up in here a little bit. So let's get this going, Stu. Obviously, you're heading to that big game here. in a good spot.
Yeah, no, and if you got fantasy questions, tweet them, drop them in Discord, whatever. But that's very fair. We're going to a bet. If you watched the show the last couple of years, I don't know how many times we've come up here and talked about Josh Allen over rushing yards in important games, in primetime games, when the lights are the brightest. Josh Allen is the guy I'm turning to. We're going over 39.5 rushing yards here. There's a lot of reasons to like this prop. One, I just mentioned the obvious one. If you see a Twitter write-up this week, you're going to see people talk about it. It's the simple fact that we want to back these rushing quarterbacks, specifically guys like Allen, Mahomes, these high-level quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks. They're more willing to put their bodies on the line, to risk their health, to risk their $80 million paycheck when the lights are brightest, when the moments are the biggest. And this is a huge game. I mean, this might be one of the most viewed regular season games of the season. We got a 54 total. We got two fantastic offenses on both sides. And what I like is now the Detroit defensive line is starting to get a little healthier. It's looking like we're going to get Reader back. It's looking like the depth is going to be restored on that D line, which means I don't know about you. What the fuck is James Cook going to do in this game? He couldn't handle last week, and he had a good matchup last week. Obviously, things got started early. They were forced in a passing game script. I'm just saying, Cook has been solid this year, but he faces one of the toughest matchups he's faced yet. McNeil still had a dominant game, even without Reader. Now you reunite those guys back. I don't think the traditional run game is going to do very well right here. They talked about using more Ray Davis. I like Ray Davis, big fan of the talent, if you remember from before the show. Actually, my most owned best ball player on the season. But Ray Davis really does specialize in a lot of interior runs, and I don't want that at all. I want outside runs. I want trying to get these linebackers one-on-one. I don't want to be running up the middle in this matchup against the Lions, and that sounds a lot more like Allen's rushing usage, right, where we're going to see some fake handoffs. We're going to see him get to the outside, challenge some of these linebackers in one-on-one situations. When you look at the end to last season, over his last 6 games of the year, he had 8 carries in 5 of those last 6. When you look at this season, when you look at his recent games, besides Miami, his only misses are coming in blowouts, right? And I love that. Like, I love that he has 7 yards in a 25-point win against the Seahawks, because when they're weighing these averages, that matters just as much as his 82 yards in a close game against the Rams, matters just as much as his 10 carries for 52 yards against the Chiefs. But as we all know, as fans, games against the Panthers are not the same as games against the best teams in the league, especially when you're talking about, once again, a quarterback putting his body on the line. So when you talk about willingness to rush, there's not going to be a problem there. When you talk about, goal line ability, hell, Josh Allen's been the goal line back this year. They've unleashed him. They're perfectly fine ramping up the volume at this point in the season. And now we get a fantastic matchup against the Lions, who allowed the most yards per carry to opposing quarterbacks on the season. We've talked about this plenty. They play a shit ton of man coverage. They play a shit ton of single high coverage. When all your cornerbacks have their back turns, they're not looking forward in zone. You're going to allow for these opportunities. You're going to allow for these burst plays, and that's exactly where the Lions have struggled. So I love the opportunity for Allen here. I think this is going to be a little bit of a popular play this week, but I expected this line to open in the 40s. I think this is a classic example of why we're still always going to have some good edges on these props, because this is not a secret. Everyone knows. It was maybe 3 years ago, right? Allen hems up the rushing usage. He really turns it up in these big games. That's not, everyone knows that. You're going to see 8 cappers mention that this week. But the fact that we're still getting these reasonable numbers, not a 44.5, which is where I would have set the line, not a 45.5, because you have to average these unimportant blowout games with the highest total game of the season. So I like the opportunity. I love Allen in this matchup. I think he has a great game.
Yeah, I do not mind this one at all. Obviously, I'm a Josh Allen fantasy owner. And in these big games, you always see him kind of do his thing. He always does his thing. Just a lot more willing to, we saw that horse collar tackle down the sideline. Like, that's a play he's probably running out of bounds in like a normal game, right? Not a game where you're coming back from 10 down, right? Just not take the hit. He's going for that extra 3-4 yards, right? And definitely a spot where longest rush could definitely be a spot as well, just because he's going to fight for those extra yards here. And when you're getting Josh Allen in a dome too, bro, like this boy could probably throw this ball the entire field if he really wanted to, right? Like, this is perfect conditions. You got a game out in LA, the last one, primetime spot. I'm excited. I mean, even if they don't win the game, Josh Allen's it ain't gonna be because Josh Allen didn't, do something that he was supposed to, right? He's gonna be going out there and maybe being a little more reckless in this game. You know what I'm saying? With how big this one is. So love that spot. Going from that game to another game that I want to watch, just to be interesting. We have the Carolina Panthers as a favorite, a 2.5-point favorite in a football game. First time in 2 years, the Carolina Panthers are a favorite. Hey, shout out Bryce Young, bro. Shout out Bryce Young. I'm gonna give him his flowers yet again, man. This guy is playing good football right now, and it's kind of funny because I was planning on having a bunch of Cowboys in a lot of these best ball leagues. Every one of these best ball leagues I had make it through has Dak Prescott in it. One of them I have Derek Carr, Dak Prescott as my top two. Bryce Young's the only one left. I'm ready for Bryce Young. He's been rolling. And Chuba Hubbard has probably one of the most secure roles in the NFL right now. Obviously, he just lost Jonathan Brooks. That's unfortunate. Obviously, hopefully he gets better. I know that was another injury on top of the other knee injury he had. It's just been a really tough start to a career, and hopefully he gets better. But Chuba Hubbard just got paid, bro. He just got paid, and he's showing why. This dude is on one. The guy's been putting up yards. He's been hitting these numbers against the Chiefs, bro. Like he's hitting these, like he's running for 60 yards against that elite Chiefs front line, right? He's been putting up, they put up 27 points on the Chiefs in that game. We just saw Dallas get torched. They're coming off of a loss in prime time. But like all these games, right? We have one-score games, right? These games stay close. The last 5 weeks have a one-score game, whether they're winning or losing in those spots. So not really worried about a blowout either way, which in a Panthers game, that's important, right? In a Cowboys game, that's important because we bet on the Cowboys, they get blown out. We bet on the Panthers and they get blown out. But now they're both kind of playing those, close football games. I got to roll with Chuba here for sure. Dude just crossed 1,000 rushing yards for the season on a team that's this bad. At least that started this bad is pretty damn impressive. Obviously, I like to see those 5 targets last week. So if they do get down in this game, they don't really have like a full-on pass catching back. Chuba Hubbard is able to catch the ball out of the backfield there. But yeah, the six targets against the Giants, obviously just, having the ability to get those 5-6 options. And we've seen how bad this Dallas defense is in terms of tackling. Overshown, probably their best linebacker with everybody else injured. He's out for the year now. Just scary spot to be wanting to fade Chuba Hubbard in this spot because obviously he's just an absolute workhorse. 26 carries last week. We saw him get 21 total opportunities against the Chiefs. We saw him with 34 against the Giants, right? So I think this is a Chuba Hubbard game, and you're really losing his number one, option to take stuff away from him. I know Miles Sanders is there, but he fell off of the fucking earth. So love Chuba this week.
There, I don't think he is anymore.
Did he cut him? Did they cut him?
The roster, yeah, because I
cut him when Brooks got brought up.
Yep.
So I don't know if he came back with him going down. I don't know. But I'd assume he does. But I'm not digging in the Panthers depth chart too much. Then heading over to CD here. Obviously, the volume is unbelievable. You want to go back to the Niners game, 17 targets, 12 against the Falcons, 10 against Philly, 12 against Houston, 12 against Washington. And then these last 2 weeks, obviously, I think it's just going to be, hey, we need to force feed CD the ball, right? Like I said, Cooper Rush, I'm sure he's going to watch tape, and CD probably going to throw hands after he watches that last play of the game where he misses Ferguson by 5 yards and CD's standing there with no one around him, right? I'm sure they probably threw hands, bro, for real, because I don't know how you don't throw it to CD in that spot. I don't think there's anybody on this Panther side going to be able to stop CD Lamb. My thing that actually really helps me here, and if we didn't have Ferguson, I'd be a little bit worried because obviously you could just send the double every time at CD, but Rico Dowdle taking fucking 3 steps forward over these last couple weeks, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough, man. Like, you can't just send 2 over on CD and then you have a light box because, dude, they've been shredded on the ground. It's been pretty big news. The tough part is also if you look at their passing yards per game, the numbers are pretty good, right, for the Panthers. But that's because at the beginning of the year, they were getting blown to smithereens and no one passed the ball in the entire second half. So mind you, over these last couple of weeks, we saw, one of those huge games from Bucky Irving. I'm pretty sure it was like 20 for 150 on these dudes. Obviously, Saquon had that game last week. We saw like 20-something, 25 carries for what's his face? Kareem Hunt, right? So obviously, when the Panthers are playing better, I think they're going to try and slow down that run game a little bit more because I don't think they're going to pass the ball in the first quarter. I think they're just going to run Rico right up the middle every single time, and then they're going to have to make an adjustment. So sign me up for CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, love the volume, and even with the loss last week, 6 for 93, very, very credible. I definitely will be rolling with him, even with Cooper Rush.
Yep, CeeDee Lamb's still in the stat padding phase of the season. He wants to get those numbers up. And J.C. Horton questionable as well, obviously would be a big boost against that secondary right there. I love Hubbard this week. I'm a big fan. I think it was sharp to do the rushing plus receiving, honestly, with Brooks, how much he contributes to the receiving game, right? That was kind of what he was getting involved in as they worked him in a little bit more. You look at Blackshear, the running back 3 special teams guy. He's questionable this week as well, hasn't practiced, or I believe he had a limited earlier today. It could legitimately be a 100% snap share kind of game for Hubbard. You know what I mean? I believe it was 97 last game, so it wouldn't be too much of an upgrade. I mean, he's the biggest bell cow in the league right now with the backup going down. I feel bad for Brooks. 2 non-contact injuries in a short span is obviously awful news for an explosive runner. So prayers to him. Hopefully they can get that turned around because that's going to be a long road there. But I love Hubbard. Like you said, he got paid. He's in a great spot right here. Should be a fantastic game for him.
Yeah, mind you, I'm pretty sure I don't remember specifically what the record was, but I think CeeDee's going for one of those records in terms of like receptions over a 3-year stretch, because I'm pretty sure he had 135 last year. It was 135, then I think the year prior was 107, and now he's at 85 right now. So obviously pretty big numbers. He's sitting at 85. He's only 8 behind Chase, right? Only 8 behind Chase. And obviously fighting with big old Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers at 87. So just something else to think about. I mean, I think he's going to try and get to that top spot again in terms of receptions. And the only way to do that is, hey, chuck him the ball every time and just make something happen, right? So obviously closing in on a 1,000-yard season as well. I think 27 yards away from that. So expect that to be on the table here again. So just some incentive-based stuff that you could see him trying to get.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what you're out there for at this point. I mean, yeah. And you don't want to be the team that loses to the Panthers either. Even though they are playing better ball right now, no one really wants to be that team, to be completely honest. And the other thing, final thing, we've seen Hubbard go against the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bucks. That's the ringer. I mean, talk about good run defenses on the interior. Man, you're talking about a much different matchup here. Like, I think Hubbard might be in contention for like most rush yards on the slate kind of thing, especially if the Giants get blown out so bad that Henry doesn't have to do too much. We see more Keaton Mitchell. We see Justice Hill. Like, could be one of those games.
For sure. I hope Derek at least gets something, because I have him in all 3 of my big best balls have Derrick Henry, because, that's the thing is he was going first, second round. A lot of those first, second round picks did not pan out there. So, obviously,
I will say there's an angle that I researched deeply last week, and we will not be playing it this week because they're playing the Giants, but it's the Lamar Jackson, his mom wants him to run more angle, which we will be touching on next week because it doesn't actually matter this week. But after last week in the interviews is very funny. One, they're going to destroy the Giants this game. I wish you could play alt lines, but like minus 24 is like plus 250. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, I don't know, but they're going to destroy them. Like, the Ravens were so pissed that they lost that last game. Lamar Jackson was so pissed. And there's a great interview of him talking about how his mom was yelling at him that he needs to run the ball more. And he was saying he agreed. So just saying, mom narrative, keep it on the down low right now. We don't need it this week, but when we get a closer game, we'll jump back on board.
Yeah, unfortunately, you picked the worst time to actually use this narrative with the matchup against the Giants. And then next week, TJ Watt, who has found a way to slow down.
I'm taking it next week. No doubt about it. I'm taking it next week.
That's like the only
attempts, not yards, but attempts. Because what, a 1 yard attempt?
Okay. I didn't know that you said attempts. I thought you said.
I didn't say it. I'm clarifying now. Yeah. You are right.
Yeah. Because dude, I'm not gonna lie, dude. That in itself is pretty fucking impressive. It's just TJ Watt being one of, like, the Steelers being one of the only teams to stop him from running like he does against everybody else. Like everybody else, he cooks on the ground, and he just Tomlin's got it, man. He just got him down and ready to
got
go.
Fields in practice now too. Practice, like he's the guy there. I mean, that's as close as you can get, like literally in the league. So I'm so hyped. That'll be a great game. I'm so hyped for that one.
Yeah, that's why I got to win this week so I can play against all those guys. I'll be watching that game. I'll be locked in on that one. So let's do a recap here, Stu, and we'll try to get to long shots pretty quick because luckily our boy, what's the guy's name who roasted him for giving us the Shirian? I do definitely got us moving back on track here. So let's get it going.
Sounds good. Yeah, do drop any questions you got real quick before we get on out of here. We will answer them now or after the show in the comments. We got Joe Mixon over 19.5 receiving yards. Sorry, it looks like I didn't send you the price. Minus 110 should be available across the board right now. I see only 20.5 is FanDuel. So if you go to your MGMs of the world, you should be good to go. Joe Mixon over 19.5. I played to 21.5.
Beautiful.
Then finally, we got Josh Allen over 39.5 rush yards, minus 110. You can get a better price on this right now. I saw, like, if you're on one of those Hard Rock or, Rivers or Fanatics, they have, like, the 35.5. But we did drop the 37, like, a second before the show started in the 4for4 Discord. It did move, so I wanted to track the best number. But I knew by the time people watch this on Sunday, this number is going to be 42.5. So I'm very comfortable with this. I played up to 42.5.
Beautiful. I'll be rolling with Ladd McConkey, Calvin Ridley, both to record 50 receiving yards at minus 124. And also rolling with CeeDee Lamb, 50 receiving yards with Chuba Hubbard, 70 rushing plus receiving at minus 126. All right, Stu. Anything else you got? You got a long shot for us here?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in this one. I was just looking at some Josh Allen longest completion like overs, but 50-yard, you do not get a good price because 40 is normally the first alt line. That's like minus 110. So probably got to cross that out. I saw Coop asked about Shakir. I think Shakir ladders could be really live this week, honestly. But for me, I don't know. If our guy Ladd McConkey plays, I think that'll 100% be one of my bets. But we can't really lock in the alt lines right now. So let's see. I don't know. I don't have any long shots locked in right now. Do you have anything, Bet?
No, not long shots right now, just because, I like that Chargers game for some long shots. They're not giving anything really there. I mean, we could – I know you mentioned wanting to do a touchdown. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I told you at the beginning of the show, we used to run the anytime TD parlays back and forth, and – I mean, I can just let it out the bag. I already talked about the guy. Josh Allen's plus money for a touchdown right now. That's crazy. At 3. I mean, what are we talking about? This is the goal line back on this team. James Cook weighs 145 pounds. This is one of the best interior defensive lines in the league. Last week from the 2-yard line, they trust him in the biggest moment. Now, that's not a half unit or half yard, scramble right there. They trust Allen completely at the goal line. He's going to be calling his own number out here. He's going to be, I mean, honestly, like the guy. I mean, the wide receiver core, Shakir is not really a goal line guy. Cooper would be your best target, but really hasn't looked 100%, even 80% quite yet. With what the total is in this game, with David Montgomery being minus 180, Gibbs minus 160, you're giving me running back one on the other side, Josh Allen, a plus money. I'll take that 10 out of 10 times.
Okay. I know that was definitely a spot up there on the list there for me as well. Definitely like that at plus money. I think I'm going to go down the list a little bit. I'm going to head over to Kyler. I kind of like Kyler to this week in those matchups because they've just been not that great in red zone opportunities as of late. I don't like the throw up options to Marvin Harrison. He should be just absolutely blanketed this week with Christian Gonzalez. And if we're having that one-on-one over there, really good corner, McBride's getting that double in the red zone. I think I'm going to roll with Kyler. At least on FanDuel, I was really surprised to see it almost at 250. It's plus 240 for Kyler Murray. Just thought that was a little high for, a game with a, mid-40s total, right? I mean, mid-40s total. This isn't like a slow game. This is in Arizona. You don't have to deal with the weather, right? So I think Kyler at plus 240 would be a spot I would definitely want to play with.
I like that too. I like that. And yeah, plus 240 is a good price for a guy like Kyler. When you combine those together on FanDuel, you get plus 650 right now on FanDuel for those two mobile quarterbacks to get in the end zone.
All right, that'll be our long shot for the week. I'll put that in here. We might drop some long shots. Just make sure you guys are have the notification bell on and hit that like button so they let you know if we drop anything else in here.
Yeah, I do want to shout out Chuba Hubbard, most rushing yards on the slate. It's not up yet. As you know, they don't post this shit till Sunday morning, which is so annoying. But I do like the most rush yards. I'm sure you're going to be able to get a good price, especially if you do the 1 p.m. slate as well, where Henry's kind of your biggest competition right there. So I do like that. And then I'll shout out one more guy. Akins, we talked about him a couple weeks ago with the Browns. That was your long shot. Obviously, with no David Njoku, I see your guys Rivers have plus 430 right now for his touchdown. I'm trying to see what other prices are available. But I say as the direct backup to Njoku, I mean, Akins probably profiles as a plus 400 on DraftKings as well. I think that's a solid look. When Njoku would be plus 150, maybe even a little bit lower in this game.
Probably lower.
Yeah. So I think that's a good shout. As well. And Paul asked about Shakir 75. I don't know about you. I do like Shakir. How are you going to say no for an under in this game with the 55 total? I mean, it's hard. I think Shakir is a good game. Even with Cooper, I think Shakir is the best wide receiver on that team right now.
Yeah, I guess my only issue with trying to chase that one is because he's had that big game. They had that huge game last week, and now you're going to get two other guys back, most likely. Just because I feel like, again, I just don't like feeling like I'm buying high on someone. You know what I'm saying? Like coming off of a week where he went absolutely berserk. Allen made an absolute dime throw down that sideline, perfectly put for Shakir there. It's like, that's like a under 5% probability throw, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for a guy who's watching that game, you have two dudes coming back, plus for him to get that one, 40, 50-yard catch that he did have, obviously a ton of yak on his one touchdown, but the other one that was way down the field was just like absolutely perfect. It's just like I don't know. I just feel like I'm buying high, and maybe that's just the way I think about it. But obviously he's been playing very, very well.
No, completely agree. That's fair.
All right. So what do you got for the people before we head out? We're over an hour. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, no, great show today. Obviously, I'm feeling very good about our plays, especially that first parlay, the Lad Ridley. That's what they call a big bong bammer. I don't know, big bang banger. I don't know. Who knows? It's a bomb though. It's a winner.
Big bang banger.
Yeah, there we go. Who knows? But I'm pumped. I'm fired up. I literally had to lock that in as you were talking right there. I was like, I don't want this line to be like minus 145 by the time the show's over. So I'm feeling great about the plays this weekend. Obviously, a little bit of an ugly Thursday night football game, but we got a fantastic slate this weekend. And yeah, I'm ready for the plays. If you want to see all of my action, you can follow over at 4 for 4. I haven't looked at my exact record. I'll post that in a couple hours. We're sitting around plus 21 units, around 63% win percentage on the season. It's been fun so far. If you like the plays on the show, I think you'll probably like the ones in the Discord as well. So if you do want all my action rest of the year, it's under $50. Code TONE should get you there. Make sure to check it out, pinned on my page.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Obviously, I think I dropped a YouTube play of the day already, NBA spot for today. I'm going to probably have to look. Hopefully, they'll drop some of these early market spots on some of the college basketball for tomorrow, because tomorrow is just absolute. Today sucks. Like, absolutely shit slate, but loaded tomorrow. Should be ready to go. It's going to be a crazy slate tomorrow with UFC as well. So, going to be a full weekend. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back again Monday, ready to roll. And best of luck on all your bets this week. Have a good one, guys.